Welcome back to the Proximity is Power podcast. I am stoked for today. We have a special guest, Dave Allred, in the house. Dave, thanks for coming on today.
Excited to be here, man. Thanks for the opportunity.
Dude, I followed along your journey for a while, and dude, you inspire me and I know many others, so freaking stoked.
Let's go.
A little bio about Dave, if you haven't heard of him or from him before. He's from Manti, Utah. Dave actually began his journey in door-to-door sales. So he actually started at Vivint, and over the course of his career there, he actually had at one point 121 different sales teams across 41 states. Freaking impressive.
It was supposed to be 4 months in Chicago, and that was it.
Yeah.
So now it turned into a 16-year leadership career.
Wow. 4 months to 16 years, freaking dominated, helped Vivint grow into a multi-billion-dollar valuation, and then exited there and helped out with the Vivint Solar as well. So freaking awesome. He became a millionaire at just 26 years old. We got to talk about that. That's impressive. By the age of 40, he had acquired over 1,000 rental units. That's psycho. That's awesome. 40 years old, 1,000 units. That's insane. He also he is the reason that we have Topgolf here in Utah County. So you guys can all thank Dave for those hangouts, and that's a lot of fun. I've been there. It's sick. And he started Axia Partners, which is a real estate investment firm that specializes in buying recession-proof assets. So example of recession-proof assets are multifamily, self-storage, RV parks, industrial, mostly. And right now they have 150 million in assets under management, which is so baller. He's a public speaker. I've heard Dave speak multiple times. Always one of my favorites that go up. He's a mentor to many. If you guys, after listening to this podcast, you should go look up all the podcasts that Dave's been a guest in, because you will not regret it. You're dropping bombs all day long. Take notes on this stuff, because Dave's a stud and he knows what the heck he's talking about. He also runs the Allred Family Foundation. Super cool. And he and his family live here in Provo, Utah. So his wife, and then he has 4 kids. And they're already entrepreneurs themselves, so we'll talk about that. But Dave, again, freaking impressive bio, and thanks again for coming today.
Thanks, man. That was a great bio. Appreciate it.
Dude, you've done a lot, so it's kind of crazy. But just diving right into it, I met Dave actually for the first time in person, 2 weeks ago now. We went to dinner with all the people that spoke at InvestorCon, Brandon Turner, David Green. I was lucky. I was sitting by Dave's wife, and then next to Dave's wife was Dave, and then across from me was Brandon Turner, and then David Green. So crazy dinner.
Hey, power and proximity.
Yeah,
right?
That's right.
That was awesome. And then also Brody Fawcett, who put it together.
That's true.
Brody was actually one of my top first-year sales reps from Southern Utah, and they ended up being my top first-year sales manager. And
wow,
once he retired from Vivint, he's gone full-time into real estate and teaching people how to do real estate. Really proud of him. It's been fun to see how much impact he's been able to create as well. But yeah, Brandon Turner, you're an investor with Brandon as well. And it was great to be able to hang out, spend some time with those guys, and the real mastermind at my house, right? 4 or 5 hours,
yeah,
hanging out.
That was the best.
Just talking real estate.
Jumping in the foam pit.
Yeah. And a little biohacking mixed in there, right? The sauna, cold plunge.
Oh yeah. No, Dave's house is freaking incredible. I posted on my story if you guys didn't see it, but craziest views of the mountains and beautiful pool, beautiful house. So that was awesome.
Thank you.
Just diving right into things. So for those people that don't know too much about you, tell us about childhood, where you grew up, Manti, Utah. What was childhood like for you?
So I haven't talked about that on podcasts very much, but childhood was it was rough, man. Honestly, grew up in a very low income home, and my dad always worked two jobs. He wasn't really around too much, and I'd actually say it was a broken home. My dad, parents got separated, multiple times, 3 times, about a year at a time. Always came back together, for the kids. And, but it was really hard, man. I was 15 years old. I remember my older sister, she ran away. I heard some noise in the room next to me and walked in the room, and she was sneaking out the window with all of her belongings. And I remember we started crying. I was like, hey, don't leave. And anyway, she left. And about a year later, I just turned 17, and I decided to, run away from home. And when I say run away from home, it's like actually running away from home. I went out my window, and I didn't know where I was going to go, and ended up just finding a diesel, like a semi-diesel truck, and they have the little beds in the back, behind for the seats. So I found a truck that was unlocked, and so I slept on the back little bed there. I think it was for 3 or 4 nights, trying to figure out what I was going to do, and ended up finding a little home in Ephraim. It was like $120 a month. The roof's caving in, just living off of ramen noodles and fast food. And then my little brother, he decided to get emancipated at 16 and moved in with me. So it's just my brother and I just trying to just survive, man. Just getting by, and it was a rough time. And by the way, I love my parents. They did the best they knew how to do, but it was really hard. It was, there was a lot of, it was a lot to go through. Right. And there's a lot of anger and issues, and, it's trauma from that. But what's interesting is, I kind of look where I'm at in my life right now, and it's all about how you frame things in life, right? Like a lot of people would go through that and feel like a victim and be like, hey, you know what, because this situation happened, then, they kind of lean on that as a crutch as to maybe why they're not where they want to be in life. For me, what's really worked well is to reframe that as, hey, yeah, that was really hard, like really hard part of my life. But take that as motivation is that, okay, I want to be, a phenomenal father. I want to be a great husband. I want to be able to completely reset the standard of what I stand for and the quality of life I'm going to create for me and my future family. And I just remember, I had this burning commitment, like, hey, I'm going to do whatever it takes. Like, I had no idea how I was going to do that. I just knew that, I was better than this, and it didn't seem fair, and I would do whatever it takes. Jerry Rice, I had a poster in my bedroom, and it was Jerry Rice, one of my favorite athletes, and next to, I think it was next to, a Baywatch Pamela Anderson,
Nice.
Maybe a Lamborghini or whatever. And then also, Cindy Crawford. You're probably too young to remember Cindy Crawford, but okay, we'll talk after the podcast on that one. But, on the bottom of this poster, Jerry has a quote, and he talks about how, you can, a lot of times, basically you have to do what others, if you're willing to do what other people won't, if you're willing to do what other people aren't willing to do, you can have the life that others can't. And that always just kind of stuck with me. Like, if I'm willing to go out and make the sacrifices and do what's necessary and really be uncomfortable in order to get what I really want. Anyway, that principle was ingrained in me at an early age.
Wow.
And again, I didn't really know how I was going to do that. I just had this extreme motivation and all this emotion around that concept. And so fast forward a little bit, got back off of an LDS mission and going to college, and I got recruited to come out and knock doors. So they had the recruiting booth set up, and Krispy Kreme donuts and free pizza that evening at a recruiting meeting. Some poor college student sucked in with the donut. The guy just pulled up in his Hummer, the leather jackets, the whole looking the part. Anyway, next thing you know, I'm out in Chicago, and going from Manti to Chicago, it's probably about as polar opposite as you can go. So
right.
Very uncomfortable, really struggled with that. I'd always been pretty successful when I put my mind to something, and that was just so hard, man. Like, I'm a month into it, 6 sales, and about halfway through the summer, the majority of our team had already quit. About 80% of the team had gone home. And, but then I remember very clearly one of the regional managers came out and he talked about how anybody that sold 100 accounts could qualify to be a manager the next year. And for me, the switch flipped. I was like, hey, you know what? I saw an opportunity. Like, I'm already here. If I can just really get after it, and finish strong here in the last half of the summer, I might be able to qualify for that. And so anyway, finished up at 121 sales.
Wow. With only selling 6 your first month.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. August.
You cranked.
Yeah. July and August I just went,
Wow.
And part of it was, I had an understanding that even if, I had an understanding that, I was learning, I was growing, and it was so hard that I knew I was developing, and I was progressing, right? I was learning the soft skills and communication and salesmanship and leadership, time management, all those soft skills that we learn in door-to-door sales. And so anyway, finished it out, made $31,000, which for me was incredible. Like, that was more than my parents ever made, and came back to Snow College, bought an Isuzu Rodeo with the chrome package on the rims. Like, I thought I was balling, it was pretty cool for me. Anyway, came back next year as first year sales manager, made 156,000. And then, next year kind of just kept growing it from there. And, man, it's pretty incredible looking back at it, because if I would have tucked my tail between my legs or quit, like most of the guys did, it would have changed the entire trajectory of my life.
Totally.
And
you were probably really close to quitting that first year.
Every day on a day, on an hourly basis. For a little while. Right. Because it's just so much rejection, so much failure, and it really tests you.
Such a pivotal decision to stick it out. And it'd be crazy to see what Dave Allred's life would look like if you would have quit, Yeah.
Like I said, it would completely change the trajectory of my life. I remember as a teenager, I always thought, hey, best case scenario, if I play my cards right, maybe I'll make $100,000 a year. Like, that would be best case scenario. Right. And so to be able to make that my first year as a sales manager and come back next year, make like 260,000 and keep, kind of doubling and growing that was really incredible for me, man. And, those limiting beliefs that we have, though, they can be tough to get through and to fix, but sometimes the best way to do that is you guys got to do the work. You just got to get through it. So anyway, ended up being a 16-year leadership career with Vivint Solar. Loved it. Once I retired in 2017, decided to go full-time into real estate. Did a bunch of syndications, multifamily all across the country. Decided to launch Axia Partners in 2020, and love that. It's been so much fun. Have about 400 investors now. Actually, a lot of them are door-to-door sales guys, leaders, executives, high income earners. And so probably about, I would guess over 50% of our investor base is actually from that industry. But yeah, kind of going back to you asked about the childhood. I'm actually this might sound weird, but I'm actually very grateful that it was such a challenging, period in my life, because for me, I think that's really given me the fuel and the motivation to be willing to go out and do whatever it takes, right? To be able to make it through, a mission in Peru is really hard, right? To be able to, and nobody in my family's ever done that before, and there's no expectation that I was going to do it. I just did it because I feel like that was, it's going to help me up level. It's going to give me that, it was going to be hard, but there's going to be personal growth from that. Summer sales, exact same thing, jumping into, Topgolf or Axia Partners, or even being a dad. Like, it's challenging, right? Especially when you didn't have, a lot of reference points on how to do it
right.
And so, but anyway, I guess my point there is, again, I think framing things in your life is really important, and we get to choose how we want to view those type of life experiences.
Totally. Because something, the same thing could happen to two people, but one person thinks about how it is like a stepping stool and like something good that can make them become more to level up. And then somebody else could view that same event that happened to them as crippling and like, oh, because of this, I can't do this type thing.
Which is really one quick question, comment on that one is, I thought a lot about that topic, and my summary of that is there's really two types of mindsets, right? You have a growth mindset or you have a fixed mindset. And the majority of people live with a fixed mindset, meaning, hey, it is what it is. I can't really change this. My situation is because of my circumstances, how I grew up, my parents, the color of my skin, where I live, whatever else. And they use that you know, and they end up just using it as an excuse to not have to go and do the work. On the opposite side of that is a growth mindset where it's really saying, hey, I'm in full control and have complete ownership in my life as to where I am now and where I'm headed to. And which is really an empowering place to be in, right? You're in the steering wheel, you're quarterbacking your life. But the problem with that for a lot of people, in my opinion, is it requires them to take full accountability for where they are right now. And a lot of times people aren't willing to do that, right? They want to have a scapegoat or an excuse as to why they are where they are. And so that's been really powerful for me to just realize that, hey, you know, Extreme Ownership, one of my favorite books, by the way, Jocko Willink, Extreme Ownership, mandatory reading for all my sales leaders. It's powerful, man. And because we take accountability for it, then you can actually affect change because it's on you. It's not on somebody else.
Yeah. And just listening to you talk about your childhood and stuff, it sounds like, you know, you had a lot of big villains in your life, like a lot of hard things that happened to you, right? And one thing Tony Robbins talks about all the time is like, the bigger the villain, the bigger the hero. And it seems like, dude, you're a hero now, but like you had to fight these crazy big villains in your life to become the person that you are today, which has attracted all the success that you've had. So really cool. I didn't know that you had moved, you ran away that young. That's crazy.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever shared that on a podcast before, but
wow.
Hey, you let off with
childhood.
Yeah, so we dive into it, man.
I guess growing up, did you know what you wanted to do, or you just knew you wanted to be successful?
I mean, if you ask me as a kid or teenager, I always wanted to be a professional firefighter. Like, it just sounded cool. I watched that movie Backdraft way too many times, and I just thought I was going to be, I just wanted to be a hero, serve people, and do something that was important.
That's cool.
But no, I didn't really know what I wanted to do at all. Honestly, I just knew that it was going to be completely different from what it was right then. Right. Yeah. But we can talk about successes and business accomplishments and stuff, which, it's something to talk about for sure. But I mean, honestly, what I'm most proud of is actually my family and what we've been able to create in terms of the relationship with my wife, my kids. And we actually just got back I've got 4 kids, 9, 12, 16, 18. And I mean, that's like, to me, that's where like real fulfillment comes from. It's more about the relationships. And so, yeah, we actually just got back from Greece about 3 weeks ago. It was our 20th anniversary, and my wife and I always wanted to go to Greece, top place we've always wanted to go in the last 10 years. We saved it for this anniversary, popped out there for, 10 days, got a private, yacht going around to the 6 islands.
So
and then,
sick.
Did a vow renewal in Santorini up on the cliffside, with my 4 kids there, ring, vow exchange, like the whole thing.
It was beautiful.
Honestly, it was my favorite week of my life.
That's so cool. Yeah, I followed along on Instagram, and it looked spectacular, like super inspiring.
It was special. It really
awesome.
Was, man. And to have your kids there,
the whole family,
be able to see it and feel it and experience it with the people I care the very most about my life.
That's awesome.
It's cool.
Yeah, because your kids weren't there for your wedding day, but they could be part of that for that, which is super cool.
Well, and also, in our first marriage, so I call this a marriage 2.0. It's kind of how we called it internally. There's no vow exchange. And so this was a really cool opportunity to be able to say, 20 years later, we're totally different people, and I still choose you. And so I went through my vows, probably, 4 or 5 minutes. And then my wife only had, 3 or 4 paragraphs, but she was so like choked up and emotional and crying from it all. It took her like 5 minutes to get through it. Yeah.
That's special.
It was beautiful.
That's awesome. Dave, you're killing it, dude. And not just financially, but dude, the man you are is super inspiring in all walks of life. Like, dude, you're committed to your family. You're committed to health. You're committed to living intentionally. You're committed to personal development. You're committed to, success. You're committed to, taking care of your clients, customers. Like, dude, like there's a lot of people like, you could look up to in one area of life, but you're someone that I look up to in like a lot of different areas, and it's just super cool.
Well, for the record, I have a lot of work to do still, and I appreciate you saying that, but for me, I feel like I'm just, kind of getting started, and you're still...
Dude, you are just getting started.
Yeah.
Like, the person you are today is insane, but like, you're just going to go on a tear even more than you have. Like I can feel it. There's not a lot of people. I feel like there's a hunger level, right? On a scale, let's say 0 to 100 of how hungry somebody is to, go succeed at every walk of life in the best way they can. And I feel like on a scale 1 to 100, you're at 100. Like there's not too many people that live life like you do and are as hungry as you are. And I'd like to think that I'm at 100 too, but dude, I'm chasing you. Like
bro, for being 26, you're 110, man. Honestly, like
I appreciate that.
In our conversations, how committed you are to personal development and investing in yourself and investing in, getting that next level. To me, I really feel like that is the most important, probably the most important factor to success is your commitment to your personal development and your mindset. Like your mindset really is the lens that you see the world in,
Totally.
Right? If you want to call it law of attraction, you want to call it, whatever you want to call it. But if you see things a certain way, that's actually what it's what reciprocates.
Yeah.
It's what naturally you'll attract in your life. Right. And so if you can improve that lens, the quality of that lens, and also to be able to, zoom out a little bit with that lens. So it's not just so focused on one thing. That's where it really gets fun. And I know you invest, you talked to me about 6 figures is, at your age, like that's really incredible.
Yeah.
I actually wish that I would have understood that concept earlier in my life.
Yeah.
So, and I love, hopefully your demographic on the podcast, there's a lot of, younger people listening.
Yeah.
And if I could, emphasize one thing again, it's just, okay, let me say it this way. I'm a real estate guy, right? And so people always ask me, hey, Dave, what is the best investment? Like what's the best ROI? And they're talking about real estate. And my answer back is generally, hey, the best investment you could possibly make is the 6 inches of real estate between your ears.
I love it.
Like seriously, man, like that,
absolutely.
You will get the best return on investment from whatever you can do to improve that.
Dude, I could not put more emphasis on what Dave just said. Like go rewind the last 2 minutes. Like the best thing that ever happened to me was my dad took me to lunch. I was telling you this off camera when I was 17, about to graduate. And he said, the thing that's made me the most successful in life are the books I've read and the people I've met and like personal development. And I just went on this journey of doing that. And like my second year in door to door, I read 150 books and and then Casey Baugh was another big example that taught me the importance of, investing in yourself. And he invited me to go to my first Tony Robbins event and he said it was 10 grand. And I had just made my first 100K my second summer. And I was like, that's how much I owe in tithing. Like that's a chunk of money, And he's like, Gage, it won't cost you 10,000. It'll cost you millions if you don't go. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, no way. But I put faith in what Casey told me. I trusted him. I did it. And man, it was the best money. The best money I've ever spent, the best money I've ever invested in my life has been in myself through books, through, investing in time, through reading books, listening to podcasts, going to conferences, going to events where Dave and these other guys are speaking. There's nothing better that you could be doing with your time or money than personal development.
Yeah, to add on to that, I mentioned this off camera as well, but 2 years ago, I was grabbing a dinner at a steakhouse with Ed Milet, and Ed did something very similar.
So sick. You're just casually at dinner with Ed Milet.
Those guys
are so badass.
He's amazing. And he said, hey, Dave, the only thing that's going to change who you are today versus who you are in 12 months is 3 things. It's the books you listen to, the books you read, the podcasts you listen to, and the people that you spend your discretionary time with. And when he said it, honestly, I was like, okay, that's kind of basic. Like I know that, like that's pretty straightforward. But the more I really internalized it and thought about it, it really is, man. Like, your mind's a garden, and whatever you put in is what you get out of it, right? Positive in, positive out, negative in, negative out. And it goes back to that, concept of power and proximity. I mean, for me personally, I'm eternally grateful for some of the guys I was able to work with, even at Vivint. They were playing at a whole different level, right? To spend a lot of time, flying around, private with like Todd Peterson and be able to see his mindset sick. And how he thinks about business and how he approaches passive income and all those things.
Yeah.
And how, multifamily apartments play such a huge role in it for him and to create, financial stability, even when the company was having a lot of ups and downs and even like some really tough years where they weren't like just barely scraping by, but they knew, hey, we have this passive income coming in from this source. So we're still going to be able to put food on the table. We're going to be okay. And frankly, by the way, Gage, that's been huge for me, man. Like I set out on this goal to have true financial freedom. I was 30 years old and I've been talking about financial freedom for a long time. I wanted it. There's a big difference between wanting something and being committed to it. And so I remember very clearly, I sat down on a Sunday, pull up a spreadsheet. Okay, how much passive income do I need? I call this the financial freedom equation, and it's actually on my website. If anybody wants to download a copy of it, it's free.
Oh, hell yeah.
It's daveallred.com. And so it's a simple Excel spreadsheet. So it's, what's your total cost of living? So that's everything, your food, cell phone, insurance, all of it. So as an example, let's say that's $200,000, right? And such a cost of living. Next line item is what's my current passive income? Let's say you have, 50,000 coming in from, a townhome or some dividend stocks or whatever. The next line item is what's the gap? So in that situation, it's $150,000. The next line item is how many years am I willing to commit to achieving true financial freedom? And for me, it was 10 years. This is when I was 30 years old. And so the next line item is, okay, well, how much more passive income do I need per year? In that scenario, it's $15,000, right? So you're breaking down a big goal down into very digestible, smaller goals. And so as a real estate guy, I'm like, okay, well, how many rental properties do I need? And the answer was 40. So my mantra became 40 by 40. So I gave myself 10 years to create enough reoccurring passive income, mailbox money, to have true financial freedom. And I put that all in writing. Every Sunday I would sit down and I would just go through that and measure any improvements. And by the way, having it written down is so powerful. They say you're 42% more likely to hit a goal if it's in writing. And so not only because it holds you accountable, but also you see those incremental improvements, which can be highly motivating. And so, for me, that was a really powerful practice to be able to get really clear and intentional on what I wanted to achieve. And also, for our sales guys that listening to this, like a lot of times as a leader, you have sales guys now making more money than they've ever made before and they get complacent with it, right? What I found is if I can give them a blueprint and help my managers, my leaders, my sales guys have a similar, financial freedom plan, then it becomes plug and play. So, okay, the more money you make here, it immediately goes into this, and that's helping you to achieve more freedom in your life, right? And there's a lot of meaning. It's not just the numbers, right? It's about what does that financial freedom do for you? And for me, it's, it's to be able to travel the world. I've been to 65 plus countries, to be able to go to Mount Everest expedition, to go running with the bulls last year, to be able to do cool, fun, adventurous stuff, which gives me a lot of energy, right? So to be able to have time with my family, to be able to go to, Greece and go enjoy it on, the way we did. And to be able to enjoy life on my terms. And so for me, that really fires me up to be able to think about, my 3 beautiful daughters, their honeymoons and their weddings, and to be able to actually pay for that and to be able to make sure it's amazing for them. It's an amazing experience. And so, anyway, my point there was, if you can get really clear on what you want at the end of the day, then it's really simply reverse engineering. I love that expression, reverse engineering. What are the habits and the decisions that you make on a daily basis to make sure it's in alignment with what you really want to get at the end of the day? And most people just don't spend the time to really get that clarity. In my opinion, most Americans spend more time planning out their annual vacation than they do planning out their life. It's crazy. And so it's not easy to do, but I promise it's worth the time to go through and really get clear on, what is your North Star? Like what are you fighting and grinding and working, sacrificing so much for? And the more clear you can get on that, then not only will you get there a lot faster, but you're going to have a lot more enjoyment and fulfillment along the way because there's purpose behind it.
Wow. I love that. Like what you're saying right now, like it's crazy that people can listen to what you're talking about right now for free. Like the amount of gold nuggets that you just like shared is insane. Like if you guys just actually just do what Dave just talked about, like it'll change your life forever. And I love what you said about like, you can want something, but there's a difference between wanting something and committing to something. And like, dude, so many people could say, yeah, I want to be financially free. Yeah, this, yeah, that. But dude, you were committed and you made a plan, you executed your plan. And I love that you put your plan in such detail that like down to the habits. Like, what do I need to do on a daily basis to get one step closer to my goal today, you know? And I love that because I'm a big fan of that.
Can I share one more thing on that one?
Go for it.
One thing that, when I was a VP of sales, I'd always sit down with my teams or my, sales leaders when I visit a team, and I spend 20 minutes doing, what I call the one-on-one performance interview. And I was just asking, hey, how you doing? What are your goals? What can I help you with? And when I ask, what's your personal goal? I realized that a lot of people, they always have like a knee-jerk reaction. I want a new car. I want to pay for an engagement ring. I want to, whatever, buy a house. But when you dive a little bit deeper into that, you go, okay, well, what type of a house and what type of this, and then what's, you get detailed on it, nuanced, it gets really, really ambiguous really fast. Like very few people can really say what they truly want. And so inspired me to take some time as their leader to really get clarity on what I wanted in my life. And so I'm a big spreadsheet guy, but so I pull up a spreadsheet and I started creating what I call lifestyle design. And I'm really proud of this. I'd say it's probably it's one of the top 3 things in my life. I say top three things that have really helped me in my life have been who I married. It's that financial freedom equation and really dialing into that. And then third would be this lifestyle design. And by the way, this is on my website. You can download it for free as well. I started sharing it with friends and whatnot, and it's created a lot of impact. I had, a lot of positive feedback. So I decided to make it a public resource, but basically it's 10 different areas of my life that I want to be great at, that I want to make sure I have no regrets at the end of my life. And so, it's time, family, spiritual, business, personal growth, relationships, etc. And it starts with a mission statement. So it's a very clear mission statement of what I want my life purpose to be. I have my 10 guiding principles, my core values, my non-negotiables, which are really important. A lot of people say what they're going to do, but the non-negotiables are what you're not willing to do. And that even included my eulogy, which is actually a really interesting exercise to write down, eulogy, which is what you want your family, friends, neighbors, people you care about to say about the impact you had in your life. And that was really powerful, man. So anyway, it's all written out in detail, and it's given me really a lot of clarity in terms of, what really matters. And also, we all know people that are really good at making money, but their health is in the toilet, right? Or they're really good at, being, anyway, they're very imbalanced at what they're great at. And to me, that's just not, that's not really living life fully. If you neglect other parts of your, what's important to you. And
I agree.
So really just trying to make sure that's all dialed in. And what's been really fun this last summer is I made a youth lifestyle design. So it's kind of a watered down version of that.
That's
and I
awesome.
had all 4 of my kids it took a lot of time, but we sit down, every Sunday and just go through this with them. And so all my kids have their own, the 10 sections of their life in writing of how they see the best version of themselves and living without regret.
That's so cool.
It was really fun as a dad, honestly, to be able to have that chance to go through that with them.
Dude, that's awesome. And what I love about that is like all areas of your life, you try to max out, right? You try to be the best friend, be the best son, be the best, financially, like health wise, like all walks of life. And I feel like that's like a big purpose of life. Like become all that you can become, like become like the best you can, like Jesus did, right? Be as perfect as you can be the best Dave Allred, be the best Gage Heward that you can be. And that's really cool that you kind of give that blueprint to your kids at such a young age, because that's powerful. And talking about this too, like I love your plan with financial freedom. Like you realized to live life on your terms, you would need $200,000 a year passive, and you made a plan, you execute the plan and hit that. And you know what's crazy is like I feel like a lot of people maybe it takes a long time or to get to that point where, no matter what happens next month, like your income from your investments are paying for your life, I guess like, how did that feel when you got to the point where, hey, no matter what happened next month, your investments were going to pay for all your bills?
So I have a couple answers on that one. The first one being, while I was still, at Vivint Solar, is when I achieved that, financial freedom goal. And what it really did for me was it made it so that, even though knocking doors is hard and it was a challenging job, it became a lot more fun when it was like, okay, I'm doing this because I want to be doing this. This is the right fit for me right now in my life, versus I have to do this because I need to make, pay my bills and provide for my family. And so it just changed the feel of it a lot when you're doing it from a place of power, of a place of power.
Yeah, you show up differently too.
And frankly, I mean, you become kind of like the most dangerous guy in the room, because like you don't, and like your boss knows, like you don't have to be there. You don't need this, right?
It's true. Yeah.
And the second thing I would say is, it really it's allowed me to be a lot more bold in my business ventures and take more risk, because I know that no matter what, I have that reoccurring, revenue from real estate that's going to be super consistent. Like, to be able to go and, I mean, there's so many examples, but, so I'm able to play more aggressively and more bold and really pursue my passion and what gives me energy.
Yeah.
Versus just having to do something because I need to do that.
I love it.
It opens up a lot more creativity, and it gives you space to be able to, listen to your heart, listen to what really gives you fulfillment, and then pursue that.
Yeah, I agree. And I feel like you show up differently at work, like you said, because you're more powerful, because you're not dependent on your employer. You're not dependent on, maybe a recruit signing with you, because you're still fine if this guy decides not to come sell, right? And you don't get the chance to lead him or whatever. You show up differently as probably a husband, a father, because you're not stressed financially, which is a huge reason. The number one reason of people getting divorced is financial stress, and that's totally gone now.
Well, again, getting kind of personal here, but like back, the childhood stuff, that's what my parents thought about. Every argument I remember, and there were a lot of, it was about money. It was about finances. It caused a lot of stress. And again, I actually think that's probably one of the reasons why I am so motivated to have financial freedom, because I just don't want to have that kind of stress in my household. I don't want to have to deal with that. Right. And so, but it really does. So it's something that, it's not an easy accomplishment, to create that freedom. But, I think one thing that's helped me a lot and motivated me is I realized a long time ago that like a core motivator for Dave Allred is freedom. Like I just want to have as much freedom as I can have in my life. Freedom to be doing what I want to do, when I want to do it, with the people I want to be doing it with. And realizing that I'm okay, so how do I, again, kind of reverse engineering that? How do I achieve that? And so passive reoccurring income from real estate, to me, in my opinion, is still the best way to do that. It's just consistent. It's reoccurring. It's passive. So I have to trade my time for it. And, I love helping younger, guys be able to jump into the space. Like, in my opinion, it's not necessarily about getting rich real quick, but it's the best way to create true wealth long term.
I agree.
And so it's been really fun. When I stepped out of that 16-year leadership career, people ask me all the time, "Okay, do you miss it?" I'm like, honestly, not the door knocking part for sure. Yeah. But the only thing I really missed was just the human aspect of being able to create real value, developing leaders and helping these guys to be able to be good at what they're doing and to become better leaders and to be able to become more financially secure. And I really missed all that. And the camaraderie of being in the trenches with your brothers, just fighting as a team, right? That was really
so
special.
Fun. It's the best.
And actually on that note, so when I launched Axia Partners, I realized real estate can be kind of boring. It's looking at spreadsheets and just deals and, underwriting and all that stuff. And so after a year or two of doing that, when I launched Axia Partners, we decided to use the tagline experiential investing. And so what that means is it's about creating an experience around something that's usually pretty boring, right? I mean, real estate is just, dirt, lumber, glass. It's just there's nothing really fun about that per se. So I try to basically put that like a human aspect into it. And so with experiential investing, what we do is we pull back the curtains. We show our investors exactly how we do what we do. We have webinars, every month, every quarter. It's with the top guys just teaching about real estate, and then Q&A sessions. But being able to really be super transparent in how we do what we do, because a lot of these guys want to be doing large, commercial real estate. They just lack the confidence or the competence to be able to do it. And so if we can create not just an economic upside for them, but also an educational upside, and we can teach basically like a real estate mastermind that's exclusive for our partners.
Smart.
It's been really fun, man, because it's creating a value, and it's a unique value proposition.
That's really cool.
That I haven't seen anybody else do.
I love that. That's really smart. And that's cool for investors. Yeah. To go see the real estate, go touch it. That's a cool experience. I actually heard a quote from, I think, Jimmy Rex. I literally heard it today, but he said, when you have to do something, it's work. When you want to do something, it's play. And I feel like when you do hit that financial freedom peak, life becomes fun. Like, and it's all play, because you don't have to do it. You do it because you want to, not because you have to.
I would add on to that.
Yeah.
My definition of having made it in business is when you can't really tell if you're working or if you're hanging out.
Yeah.
Hanging out, like, cause you're working with the people you want to be working with. Mm-hmm. You're doing what you're passionate about. And then it becomes fun, right? Because it's your choice. You're doing it because you had the free agency to choose that and to do it with these people.
Totally.
And that's really when, at least in my experience, where
I agree,
where it gets fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're making a difference too. Like you're not only playing and having fun, but you're making an impact while you do it, and you're giving, great experience and great education for first time or young or late investors, all types of investors, Yeah.
And in that mission statement, one of my goals is to help at least 1,000 people become financially free through real estate, and then create direct value for at least 10 million people. We're working on it.
Dave, you're a beast.
Like I said, we got a lot of work to do.
You're a beast, Dave. I'm going to help with that, dude. Like, guys, if you want to get into real estate, like Dave Allred, Axia Partners, like great place to go. I'm excited. I haven't done a deal with Dave yet, but it's going to happen. So, no, this has been awesome. I feel like doing the podcast for me is like all play, because it's like, I'm learning, I'm growing, and then I get to like post it on platforms and people get to share and watch it. And it's like my wife's reading a fairy book that she loves right now, and she just like, I can't put it down. Like, I can't put this book down because I'm so in love with it. And that's how I feel about work in my life right now. Like, I can't put it down because it just gets me so excited. I just want to go like run through a wall,
Bro, that's awesome, man. It's passion.
It's passion. It's fun. Shifting gears a little bit. I mean, we've kind of touched on this, but do you believe, Dave, that proximity is power? And if so, how important has it been to you in your life?
I think it's extremely important. Speaking from personal reference, again, like when I, was able to spend time around guys that were doing what I wanted to do, I feel like it's a shortcut, right? If you can look at somebody like in the white of their eyes, face to face, and they're already where you want to be. Like every time I'm in that situation, I was like, humbly say this, but I was like, dude, if this guy can do it, I can do it. Like it can't be that hard, And but then to be able to have guys in your corner that are, willing to be mentors and advisors and actually help you along the way, is huge. Especially in real estate, a lot of times, it's just that one thing you missed in due diligence, right? It ends up being a landmine or at least a big speed bump. And if you have an advisor, somebody, a mentor that can help you avoid those landmines, dude, you're going to have it's going to accelerate that journey so much faster. And so, even when I went into to real estate, when I first started raising capital, I actually learned from Todd Peterson. He said, hey, anytime you go into a new vertical, try to find the top 1% to 2% of people in that and try to get a proximity to those people, because they're going to be able to teach you how to operate with excellence.
Wow.
And what I found is, well, I'll come back to that. So I found that, the number one guy in the country for multifamily syndications. And I took a little bit of time, but I built a relationship with him, tried to create value for him, and he ended up letting me come in on a deal with him as a co-GP. And so I learned a ton from him.
Wow.
And what's crazy is now, like, his advisors, his real estate strategist, his tax strategist, his legal firm are all people that I work with now as well. So not only did I have the proximity to that individual, but it's his proximity to his people. I now have proximity to those people.
That's so badass.
It really was huge for me.
Pivotal, yeah.
Yeah. And because otherwise, if you work with somebody that's not really experienced and whatnot, and a deal ends up going bad, I mean, that can be devastating to your momentum. And
wow.
Like, I'm really proud to be able to say today, after 16, 17 years of raising capital, over $50 million, raised personally, I've never lost a single dollar of investor capital in any real estate deal ever.
So cool. Wow.
Knock on wood. Right?
Yeah.
But I think that proximity has been really important for me. I feel like what that really does is it's a shortcut, right? Like, you're probably going to get where you really want to anyways eventually, but it's just a much more efficient way to be able to get there a lot faster.
Wow. So much to unpack right there. Well, okay. Yeah. And I agree 100% with what you just said. Proximity is absolutely power, and it doesn't have to be in person. In person's the best, but if not, through a book that they wrote or a podcast that they were in. Like, you guys just listening to Dave right now on this podcast is a way of you getting proximity, and it's powerful, And I love what Todd told you to do. Like, if you're going to go attempt to do something in any area of life, any new vertical, go learn from the best or top 1% in that field, to go learn from how they've been able to do what they've done at the highest level, and go learn from them directly. That's awesome.
I think another example is, you were talking to me before we hit record, and a great example of power and proximity is, so you came to my house, this event with Brandon Turner, and Brandon Turner is, one of the top 5, most influential guys in the country with real estate.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And you got to meet each other and hang out for a little bit. And now you guys are texting each other every day, and you're jumping on his podcast and he's coming on your podcast.
That's right.
Hear that right?
Yeah. And
that's
now
huge, man.
It's crazy.
Huge.
No, it's crazy. But
that never would have happened if you weren't at that event at my house on Saturday.
Right. And I paid an extra $2,000 to go to that, where the base ticket was $300, but I'm like, you got to pay for that proximity.
Sometimes you have to pay to play.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
Yeah. Especially at the beginning, cause right now, like, I don't have anything to add really to Brandon Turner's life, except I thought about that. I'm like, how can I help Brandon? And I thought, I need to sell him on Date with Destiny. And I did. So that's awesome.
A follow-up question I get a lot when I talk about, power proximity is, people go, well, hey, how do I get proximity? Like, cool. Yeah, of course I want to have proximity to these guys that are doing what I want to do, but their time's very valuable. So how do I get that proximity? And I think the simplest answer is what you just said. It's the way you approach that is, how can I create real value for this person? And if you approach it from that angle, I mean, I'm always going to appreciate that. Someone's like, hey man, it's not, hey, can I bend your ear, or can I take you to lunch? Like, frankly, I get those DMs daily.
I
right?
DM'd you that. Yeah. I admit. Yeah. No, I agree.
It's hey, I'm going to start by creating value. And frankly, I feel like that's like the economy, or the landscape of business is changing more so, where I think that's how you approach most business these days, is how do I create value first? And then once I've created value, then you ask for the sell. So important.
Yeah, my value proposition to a guy like you would have been, hey, I'll buy you lunch, Dave. Like, no, but you're right. And the more value, and the more you can approach those relationships with, like, giving first, the more likely you're gonna be able to get into proximity, I feel like.
Yeah,
that's such a good point.
Yeah, and I think that, my all-time favorite business quote is Zig Ziglar. Everybody knows Zig Ziglar if you're in sales, but he says, you can have everything you want in life if you help enough other people get what they want. And it sounds a little cliche, but for me, it's been a game changer. Just having that mindset in every conversation, in every transaction, in every basically in every situation is
Wow.
how can I help this person get what they need and create value for them? Because it's always going to reciprocate, man. Even if it's not immediately, generally it's going to be, and it's usually 2 to 3 times it comes back. Right. And so, and again, it's actually kind of selfish too, because it feels good when you are looking to help create value, especially in sales. So instead of coming across kind of needy and like, hey, I want this business, I need this business, I'm going to push for it. The whole feel of that it's still a transaction, but it changes the feel of it because it's coming from a place of value creation.
Mm. Oh my gosh, this has been unreal. No, I agree 1000%. And I feel like no wonder Dave Allred's so successful, because he's approaching relationships with like, how can I give? How can I serve? And that's really cool.
One more thing I can maybe add on to that.
Yeah.
I've thought a lot about mortality. I lost my mom unexpectedly about 4 years ago. And then my dad is diagnosed with Parkinson's disease, which is degenerative and chronic. And it's really a hard one for the family as well. But I thought a lot about like, at the end of my life, what's going to really matter? Like it's not going to be the business success. It's not going to be the number of zeros in your bank account. In my humble opinion, the 3 things that I think will matter the most is relationships, memories, and experiences. So relationships, memories, and experiences. And so those are 3 things that I really want to be able to prioritize throughout my life, not just at the end of my life. And I feel like I'm not ever going to regret not having, that's where I'm at.
That's awesome. I was listening to Casey Baugh's episode with Gail Miller yesterday, and one quote I wrote down that her and Larry Miller used to say all the time is, true wealth is what you'd have if you lost all your money. And like really what you have is, well, your relationships and the experience and memories that you have to date and the person that you became. That's really cool. I love that. Wow, this has been fun. Who are some of your big mentors along the way and why?
Haven't thought about that for a little while. Oh man, I had a lot of them. My boss, when I was a teenager, I felt like he was like the first person that really believed in me, helped me see the opportunity or the potential they saw in me. I mean, anyway, I won't go into details on that one, but he was amazing. I think that I'd put my Scoutmaster on there. He was awesome. He just like adventure, just getting after life. I'd put Sean Brenchley in there, Greg Butterfield and Todd Peterson. Those are 3 leaders that I feel like they really led from the heart. They always cared a lot about the people. It wasn't, obviously it's a business and chasing profitability, but they always prioritized the person versus just the business.
So key.
Yeah. And then, on the business front, Tony Robbins is amazing. Jim Rohn is classic. Ed Milet, I think he's one of the greatest speakers of our time. Love that guy. Also huge heart, like just all love,
Hey, I met Ed once. My dad my dad actually works in the same business that Ed was in, the big finance business, and I got to meet him at Jackson Hole. But anyway, that was random side shit. I agree 100%. Ed's a beast, but that's cool. What are some things that you wish you would have known before you started your journey?
I think that, I guess it depends on when you say start your journey, as in like my professional career.
Yeah.
I would, I would say the importance of, so, a lot of people think that you need to find what you're what you're most passionate about, like early on. And I'm telling this to my kids right now as well. Like, I think it's really hard when you're young to be like, okay, I'm passionate about this. We haven't done it yet. And at least my experience was, what I become passionate about is once I've done something that I'm not good at and it's uncomfortable, but once I put in the, 10,000 hours and I become really good at it, it actually becomes fun because then you're winning and you're doing it at a high level. And I found that it's not really about what you're doing. It's about what level you can do it at. And if you can be great at something and perform with excellence, you're actually probably pretty passionate about that. You're gonna have pride of ownership and you're going to be stoked about what you're doing. So I think that's something that is often misrepresented to young people, is that you got to go figure out right now what you're going to, what gives you this, your passion.
Yeah.
But I think most people can't figure that out until they actually get out there and try some things.
I agree 100%. I feel like do what you're passionate about is like, okay, do what you're really good at and invest time into something that, you could get really good at.
The other thing I would say is on the real estate front, I started out by buying townhomes, condos, and then ended up buying 25 fourplexes, something like that. And then one of my mottos in life has always been in real estate is always do bigger deals than yesterday. So it's always about scaling up. And, so I did the fourplexes and then 20plex and then, it's 200 units and now, a lot more than that. But I wish I never would have really kind of messed around with like the single family homes and stuff. I just, I didn't really know what I was doing that. And I was kind of scared to go bigger, but in hindsight, I wish I would have just gone straight to large, bigger commercial real estate. I love multifamily. It's my favorite asset class for a lot of reasons. And I wish I would have just had the courage to go a little bit faster or a little bit bigger earlier on.
That's funny because if you ask this question to Todd Peterson, what are some things that you wish you would have known before you started your journey? He would have said, I wish I would have thought bigger, faster, which is exactly what you just said too. And it's cool because like, and even hearing that from like a guy like you, it's like, no, like Dave had 1,000 units by 40. Like he was thinking big, fast, but like even for Dave to say that is like, I get what you're saying.
Well, so to clarify, I got that 40, my goal was 40 by 40.
Yeah.
And I hit that goal when I was 36.
Okay,
and so that's basically when I retired from door sales, went full time into real estate. And then I upped that goal from 40 doors to the 1,000 doors. Cause I had 4 full years just to focus on just that.
So you went from having a goal of 40 units by 40, and then you hit that goal by 36. And then you're like, okay, by 40, you didn't say like 1,000. You said,
it's got to be a hairy.
I mean, not 100, but like
goal.
1,000. That's crazy. That's cool.
Yeah. Well, again, once you learn, you get the confidence in that competence, and you feel like, you kind of figured things out. Then it's pretty easy to scale from there. I think the hardest part. I mean, even to this day, if you ask me what my scariest, like what I was most nervous of any transactions, and we're building a $50 million industrial warehouse right here in Harriman right now.
Wow.
And I'm doing some, pretty big commercial deals. The scariest investment in real estate that I made was my first rental property. And it was a little townhome. It was like $130,000.
Let's go. Where was it?
Provo. Yeah. But I didn't know what I was doing, right?
That was scarier than, the industrial. Yeah. But you did it.
I did.
And continue to do it at a high level. That's awesome.
Yeah. It's been fun, man. Pretty passionate about real estate. I think you probably pick up on that, but I just feel like it's one of the greatest ways to create that freedom in your life and create real wealth. And
I agree.
And I learned a long time ago that one thing that about Dave Allred is like, I love to win, but I hate to lose even more. Like I hate to lose more than I love to win. And especially when it comes to investments, Warren Buffett says 2 rules of investing is rule number 1, don't lose your money. Rule number 2, don't forget rule number 1. And so for me, I just feel like it's great. We always look for what's called asymmetrical risk return, meaning that you want to mitigate the downside risk of loss, but then still create strong upside yield. And I love multifamily real estate. For those listening, if you don't know much about real estate, I would just maybe put a challenge out there is to try to learn more about it. The way I learned about it, it got on my radar was I made that, $156,000 as a first year sales manager, went to my CPA and I'm like, hey man, what are your wealthy clients? Cause I was wealthy, right? Like, what are your wealthy clients doing to mitigate the tax burden, tax liability? And he said they're investing in businesses or real estate. I was like, I don't really know anything about real estate, but that sounds cool. And so I committed to becoming a student of the game of real estate and just started to get proximity and read every book that I could and just kind of dove into it.
So sick. Yeah, I love real estate, and I think you're absolutely right that it's one of the best ways to preserve and keep wealth and build wealth long term. I think like a big person that kind of got me into real estate was Corbin Church. He teaches entrepreneurship at BYU.
Yeah, I've spoken over there a few times.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
Yeah, shout out Corbin Church. But he actually talked about how like you can make a ton of money in business, but don't be an idiot and invest all the money that you earn in business. Like before you reinvest back into the business, invest in real estate. So that was like super key for me to learn at a young age.
Yeah. And since you have a lot of, door sales guys on this in your audience, I just share, that was really a differentiator for me was, most of these guys would get their, the big back end checks, year end checks, and it's buying new snowmobiles, new rims, new truck, depreciating assets, totally. Right? New watches. And I'm grateful for having understood this early, like the power of taking that active income and aggressively putting it into passive income, because that if I want to get a new Breitling or new watch, my mindset is, hey, okay, cool. I like that. That's a depreciating asset. So how can I create enough passive income to be able to pay for that? And
I love that.
Quick story. I know you probably wrap it up here.
You're totally good.
Like my kids, 9 through 18, all of them are investing in real estate with me. They all come in through JVs, joint ventures, and every month we sit down and we measure their passive income, and they're all very competitive to see who's at where. And my daughter, when she turned 16, she's like, "Hey, I want a Tesla Model 3 for my first car," and I'm like, "Hell no, we're not doing that. That's irresponsible. There's no way." And after about a month of her just grinding me down, which by the way, that's a downside of being a great salesperson and teaching your kids salesmanship. They know that no means yes. And you just got
to never stop.
Yeah. Like relentless, man. Like, dude, anyway, she made a PowerPoint even to present to me on why a Tesla makes sense for her. Anyway,
that's so cool.
And ultimately after saying no so many times, I realized, hey, that the higher quality response here is, hey, you can have that if you want to, but you need to figure out how to get enough passive income to pay for the monthly payments. And so we sold off some of our crypto, some of our stock holdings, and Lululemon and Nike or whatever else. Moved all that cash over into a fourplex that I was buying over in Vineyard, and so that creates about $300 a month in passive income. Her car payment, so I'm the leaseholder, so I own the car. I like that because I can control it. If she's ever making bad decisions or texting, driving, whatever, then I can repo the car.
I love that. Yeah.
But so I'm the bank, I'm the lender, $350 a month. She's making $300 now through passive income. And then I said, hey, I'll pay you X amount of dollars per hour for helping mom Uber the kids around to sports and practices in school. So now she's making, $400, $500. So she's cash flow positive on it. The investment in the fourplex is appreciating, right? And it's a true win-win-win situation for her. But that's an example of I think I love the opportunity to be able to teach my kids financial literacy. It's something that, the public school system doesn't really hit on. In my opinion, that's by design because, financial freedom creates free agency, which is maybe not what, anyway, we don't go down that rabbit hole, right? But that's something that has been really fun for me as a dad. But anyway.
No, I love that. Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, Jeff Mendez says the reason they don't teach financial literacy in school is because everyone's in the rat race. And what does the rat race need more of? More rats, right? And I love what you said too about not upgrading. My dad always said don't upgrade your lifestyle until your passive income can pay for it. And so many people use their active income. But if you do that, if you use your active income to upgrade your lifestyle, then you're just in slavery. You're a slave to it. So yeah, we'll wrap up here in a sec. One question. So 3, 2, 1 pivot. What are 3 books that have impacted you the most and why? 2 people and 1 quote.
Whoa. Okay. All right. You didn't let me know that beforehand.
Put you on the spot.
So 3
books, 2 people, 1 quote.
Okay. So 3 books, I would say The Magic of Thinking Big.
It's great.
And
book.
Yeah, Andy Frisella, I was actually at his house and it was in his library and he had a whole bunch of them. And I'd never heard of the book before. And he gave me a copy of it, read it a few times, and it's an older book, but really, really good. Next one I would say is How a Man Thinketh. Love that book. So simple. My kids are reading it right now. Incredibly simple, but just so powerful.
Yeah, As a Man Thinketh.
Yeah. Third, I'd probably go between either probably Extreme Ownership, Jocko Willink. I love that book. Anyway, if anybody wants to say top 20, I have a top 20, just send me a DM. I have a top 20 in business, top 20 in real estate, and top 20 in tax strategy.
Oh, let's go.
So
I need that.
Share that.
That's awesome.
Happy to share that. And we got two people. Oh, that's tough, man. We're actually saying names live. I mean, just that have had the most impact for me.
Two people that have impacted you the most, and why?
Yeah. I mean, I'd probably have to say, Todd Peterson has had a huge impact for me. Just in terms of, thinking big, the leadership, the aggressive, but not overly, but pretty aggressive approach to business. I think that's always been inspiring. The other one would be, Clint Ashton, the guy I talked about when I was younger. Even like after I got back off this mission, I actually ended up he let me sleep on his couch because I didn't really have any place to go. And then he gave me his truck. He had a 72 Chevy, beautiful restored truck. And as I was leaving, after sleeping on his couch for 2 weeks, he threw me the keys and just let me have it. And he wasn't very wealthy. He was, very middle class. But anyway, again, just the selfless service and really speaking possibility into me at an early stage of my life. By the way, for all the sales leaders listening here, I truly believe like one of the most powerful motivators is simply showing trust, like showing confidence in your people, because we all have so many self-doubts and limitations, and like the internal dialogue can be really negative. But to hear somebody that you respect or that's, above you speaking possibility into you and how they see greatness, they see potential, they see these things, can be life-changing for a lot of people. And then the last one was what? One quote. So I already shared two, Jerry Rice's quote and Zig Ziglar. I think the one that really stands out for me is, if you're willing to do what other people won't, then you can have the life that other people can't. Jerry Rice.
So good. Okay, yeah, we'll wrap up here, and you had 5 minutes?
Sure.
Yeah. If you had the world's attention for 2 to 5 minutes, what would you want them to know?
Man, you got to shoot these questions over me beforehand, man. That's a good one. What would I want the world to know? If something scares you, you should do it. If something scares you, generally that means that you should do it. I mean, for me, I've kind of taken that approach, and at this point, there's really not much that I'm scared of. There's three things in my life that I'm still scared of, and one of them is long distance swimming. So I've done a few endurance events, the Iron Cowboy and Ironmans. The swimming part, dude, I'm not buoyant. I actually hired a swim coach, and like, Dave, I've never seen this before, man. Like something like you. Anyway, so
you're just too dense.
I asked her that. I'm like, is it because of muscle mass or bone? And she's like, I don't know. I've never seen somebody not like I literally just
sink.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Number two is stand-up comedy. I think that's like one of the truest forms of communication. And I'm not very funny, so that's something I want to try to do next year. And the third one is I've got these 3 beautiful daughters, and the idea of them dating, like I don't really know how to handle that situation. It still makes me a little bit nervous. But besides those 3 things, I think I've just always kind of done whatever scares me. And I think that once you do that, then, there's no longer any space for fear because you've done it. You've already conquered it. And so I think that's a principle to live by.
My friend who's a dad to, a bunch of daughters, every time a boy comes over, the first thing he does is shows them his gun collection. That's awesome. Awesome, Dave. This has been awesome. You guys, if you got value, share this with a friend that you think would also get value. Where can people find you, Dave? Your website, you mentioned daveallred.com, right?
Yeah.
And then,
any of the social platforms, pretty active on Instagram mainly. It's Dave Allred on any platform, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram.
Awesome.
I'm not on TikTok. My daughters have asked me to not get on TikTok. I don't know why, but they just don't want their dad on there. But But yeah, feel free to reach out. If you want to download that lifestyle design template or the financial freedom template, feel free to jump on my website. Otherwise, yeah, feel free to reach out with any questions. The Axia Partners, axiapartners.com, and do my best to get back to you guys or have my assistant help out with that. But Gage, I appreciate you having me on, man. This has been really fun.
Oh yeah, this has been awesome. Guys, go follow Dave, like legit, like everything. Go listen to all the podcasts he's been a guest in. Like, go follow Dave. He'll inspire you. His life is insane. And he's, like he said earlier, he's just getting started. And I can feel that. So
it's getting warmed up, man.
It's going to be fun.
Let's go.
Well, thanks again. Peace out, boys.